Hey, so thanks for taking the time to talk to me about your journey in personal development. And this is what we're really going to discuss today, very briefly, about the value of personal development, mindset training, and one of the programs that I run called Thinking into Results, which you've done and which is based around Bob Proctor's work in personal development and self-growth. But what's interesting, and the reason that we're having this conversation, is that I know that you turned to personal development a year or two ago, when you decided to make a significant shift in your life and actually begin to become a professional property investor and set up a property investment business. So I wanted to ask you why you thought that personal development training was important for you as a new investor.
For me, Stuart, you're right. It was a few years ago. It was probably during the COVID period. I started reading a lot more on property and self-development, actually. And there was a few books that stood out for me, certainly from a mindset perspective, where I was listening. I was reading quite a lot of Joe Dispenza, and also a book called The Four Agreements. They were books
Don Miguel Ruiz, yes.
Oh, fantastic book. And those kind of books and that kind of process and teachings always fascinated me. And it was something that I was always keeping up to tabs with, or try to seek out new books or new things to listen to or watch on YouTube. And then the property investing was something that, like most of the people in the UK, we've all got some sort of interest in property. But I really started taking it serious probably 2 years ago. In fact, it was May 2023, I attended my first PIN meeting. And it blew my mind, because up until then, I just thought, listen, you buy a single buy-to-let, you pay the mortgage down, and then you get the next one. So to go to a PIN meeting, it changed things, and that was a bit of a shift. And as you'll know from working with the Property Investors Network, there is a lot on mindset there as well, Stuart. So kept going to PIN meetings, actually logged into a digital one, Clapham PIN, and heard yourself. And that was where we spoke about this when we were working together. But for me, that was the first time I can remember seeing your presentation. However, you think I've seen it before, which I don't know, but I just had this knowing, and that's down to it was probably predates what I learnt on thinking into results, but I knew that I was going to work with you.
What, just when you saw me on Clapham?
Honestly, in that Clapham PIN, I can remember it was a virtual one, and I can remember watching your presentation, and you gave a link to an hour long video after that went in a bit more in depth, and I knew in my gut, and that was
interesting. Yeah.
Aye.
So I've been speaking on the Property Investors Network for a number of years, and I hear that quite often. People will hear my presentation, which is about mindset and how to use mindset to become successful. But it's not until a little while later that people recognize the value of it. You don't always see it in the beginning. But as you said, it's a combination, isn't it? It's a combination of educating yourself in strategy, property strategy, in this case, as a property entrepreneur, and also in mindset, which is really about building your own confidence, building your self-belief that you can actually do what they're teaching, which is to create a property business beyond what most people think. Get the buy-to-let and keep the property, and you've got a nice asset at the end of it, 10 or 20 years' time. So why do you think that a combination of strategy and mindset are essential as a property investor? Why do you think that combination is essential?
I'll quote Simon Zucci here, where he said that mindset is 80% of what mastermind and what property is all about, because you need to believe you can do it, and you need similar to what you and I have spoke about and I've learned from you, is we need to think from the future that we already have, and it's there. We need to visualize that, and visualization's a massive thing. Look at Formula One drivers. You see them, they visualize going around about the track before the race. So it's taking that and thinking into the future with the property. Making the future your present thoughts for what you're doing. And for me, that was that was it was fundamental because I, like a lot of people, I was in this, and my mindset was in the rat race of you work a 9 to 5 and that's it. You keep going, you keep going. But when you start coming to Property Investors Network and meetings or teachings with yourself, you see that there is a different way of thinking there. There's a different
Mm,
way, different lifestyle that could come from that as well.
mm. Yeah. So how, in your understanding of mindset and the mindset training and the program that we did together, Thinking into Results, how do you think that the mindset side actually helped you on the PIN Mastermind training, the 12-month property education training, and to actually start to build your own property portfolio? How did you actually use mindset training to do that? How did it help?
Put simply, it helped me get out my own way because my mind was putting up blockers, and you gave me tools to help deal with those blockers, like terror barrier, for example, when you're stretching your comfort zone and you're doing something new, your mind's basically got different programs, and it hasn't got that program for what you want to do. So it's hitting the do not do this, David, abort mission, do not do this. But with a better understanding of the mind and the subconscious mind, it gave me the tools to be able to tackle that. And I'll digress a bit here. When it came after Mastermind, and I'd started as a pin host, which that was one of my goals anyway, and it terrified me, Stuart, but it got
Right.
me out of my
Yeah.
comfort zone. And that was, I went back to that lesson prior to delivering the first pin meeting, and I messaged you as well, and I was like, "Listen, Stuart, I'm listening to this lesson in advance of my first pin meeting, and you were like spot on. Listen to that, and you gave me some pointers, and honestly, I'm forever grateful for that."
Mm. Thank you, David. Yeah, it's interesting. When we go into a new venture, when we do something we've never done before, fear will always come up. And this is what we kind of call the terror barrier that you're talking about. It just naturally shows up because we don't have any experience of it, and the mind is questioning whether we're capable of it, but it's also alerting us to recognize that we need to know something. So on your journey to through property, well, you've got Property Mastermind up there. On your journey through the Property Investors Network Mastermind program, you said that it's an 80-20% split, right? It's mindset is 80% of it. But what is it? What other distinctions do you think were helpful in allowing you to believe that you could actually achieve your biggest goals?
Um, we're we're very good at overcomplicating things. Our minds are very good at overcomplicating things,
Yeah.
and through the work that we done together and the coaching sessions that we had, it was a case of let's just, why are we overthinking this? Let's break it down and keep it in its simplest form.
Mm-hmm.
And that massively helped me
Right.
because
Yeah.
um like anybody, I'm terrible. I can overcomplicate things where it's not. Let's just look at the simple things. And I'll take, for example, halfway through my mastermind year, and this was we started working together at the start of July, Stuart, and at that time, I was based down in Frome in Somerset. And within 2 weeks of us working together, I'd been offered a promotion with my day job, which meant another relocation. And I'll be honest, if it wasn't for being on Mastermind as well as working with you and going through thinking into results, that kept me grounded, which was on a massively stressful or potentially stressful time of relocating halfway through a mastermind year. I had to switch strategy and but deep deep down, I just had this internal knowing that everything was going to work out and everything was going to be fine, and the property business was going to do what it was going to do, which it did. Yes, there was a few wee changes here and there compared to what I visualised, but you kept me grounded, and the lessons kept me grounded, and this will sound cliche, but every lesson felt as if it came at the exact right time for where I was in life and what I was going through. And obviously there is a sequence to the lessons, and that's why they're in that sequence. But I just had this internal calmness. And I remember on Mastermind, there was people who the cohort who I was with on an MM35, they noticed a change in me because of going through Bob Proctor's thinking into results. And
Mm.
I'll just one final point on that, really. The first two workshops on Mastermind 35 was in April and May last year. And on the first workshop, I sat away to the far right hand side. On the second workshop, I sat to the back. And I was being present, but I was being a bit of a wallflower, if I'm honest. I wasn't the most I wasn't saying I was as extroverted as what I am now. And I remember making a conscious decision that, listen, I'm going to sit down because we all get an opportunity to go up to the microphone and chat and say what's going on for that month. And I was always near the end when that came to it, or in the middle or something. Anyway, I made a conscious decision that I was going to sit in the front table. I was going to be sat in the same seat, and I was going to be up in that microphone, if not the first, one of the first. And from workshop 3, I basically, because everybody sits in different seats when they go in, I had that same seat every workshop. And Simon will come up and do a session at the start, and he picks what table he wants to go up and speak first. And he always picked my table, and I was always up in that microphone first. And that pushed me out my comfort zone. And it just became expected. I knew going in there every time, I'm first up in that microphone. I'm going to tell my story.
So how important was that kind of change in you as part of your vision
At,
for your life and your goals that you were setting for that?
at the time, I didn't realise the significance of it because for me it was let's create this program of me being more present and um and more in the room, so to speak. And that led to it was weird because it's gave me a confidence that I didn't expect to get from that, just from being sat in a certain seat and being first up in that microphone. Because halfway, well, towards the end of the year, they offered me the position of Glasgow pin host, which one of my goals, we wrote it down on a goal card, was to get more public speaking opportunities, and whether that was from doing presentations on the pin circuit, that was what I was thinking. Let's do a presentation on the pin circuit. So to be a host of an actual pin meeting, that's massive, massive growth
Yeah.
compared to where I was last April. Now, first pin meeting, May 23. It took me until May 24 to stand up and do a 20-second pitch. So a year.
A whole year. Yeah.
And then fast forward 8, 9 months later, I'm hosting a pin meeting.
Yeah. It's incredible how fast things can change, isn't it? Once you actually make that decision and a shift occurs, so many opportunities show up. But I'd like to ask you kind of briefly, what's changed before you did thinking into results with me, and after you've done the 6 month program, and now you've done 12 months Pin Mastermind? How would you summarize the changes that have occurred to you?
An incredible transformation, but it was always inside me. I just didn't have the tools to lift the lid and open up this new me. And I have. I've changed for the better. I've grown for the better. Uh, I've got a new perspective on life and where my future's headed. Now, I think that's what you said there. It's amazing how fast things can go, because this has been go back to the very start when I said about reading the Joe Dispenza books and the Four Agreements. It was just slow, and then it was a snowball effect, and it's just rolling, getting bigger and bigger now. So it's I've got a massive vision for the future.
I was going to
Uh,
ask you, how does this change the way that you view setting goals and creating a vision for your
Conceive, believe, achieve.
life? Napoleon Hill.
um, no, I mean, to have a goal of getting better, more public speaking opportunities to being a pin host, there's a massive shift there. So if that can happen in the space of 9 months, where can the future bring? And this was something that you and I had spoke about previously, where I'm now looking at going into coaching myself and helping others, which is something that I would have viewed that as unachievable even a year ago, but now with the tools that I've got and the way my mind's working and the way I'm viewing things, that's not achievable. And
It's incredible, isn't it? Why do you think that unachievable can become achievable?
By changing your thought and just simply just simply telling yourself that you can do it. I am is a massively powerful phrase,
Sure.
massively powerful,
Yeah.
and it
So
has. It's
to
just
believe that you can, to tell yourself, to make a decision that you can and change the way you're thinking, then
mhm.
it becomes possible, right?
Aye, and I remember you and I when we were going through the when I was going through the workbook and we had the articles to read. I can remember telling you I had when I was reading this article, I had this mad out of body experience,
Mm.
and it was weird. It was like a it was like a change. It was a change in paradigm. I've revisited something that was a blocker years ago, and this came out of me just reading a paragraph. I thought I had to step back, Stuart, and I thought, wow. But that was how my mind was getting into this. So that it was as if I closed the door there and moved on, and that was very early on. And we're teaching. It may have been lesson one or lesson two. It might have been the known doing gap, or even lesson one. Anyway, looking back on that now, that's that was a big shift in moment. I can remember us speaking about it at the time, but probably didn't realise how big a shift that was at the time. And that's it probably opened me up to being more open to the teachings and where we go from there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, thank you, David. Yeah, it's being open to the teachings. It's recognizing that there are things that we don't know that we don't know, that we need sometimes someone to show us that. And then the mind opens up to all kinds of possibility and incredible things can happen. Yeah. So, David, thank you for sharing that with me. Incredible journey that you've been on, great achievements already. And I can see, you have a vision for doing more. So, thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Stuart. Honestly, testament to yourself and your teachings, the conversations we had, how in depth we went. It was incredible. When I signed up 6 month program with weekly coaching calls, I mean, I made this for another thing, sorry, and I'm going on a bit here. I made a conscious decision that every Friday at 4 o'clock, I would be on that call and I would be sat at my desk at home. Now, I do a lot of travelling with work, as you well know, and there were some mornings on that Friday I woke up and I was in the Midlands, but I knew I was going to be sat at my desk and you and I were going to have that call because that was my non-negotiable. Because mindset was just so important to me, and the value I got from those calls. I mean, there were some Fridays we were sitting talking for 2 hours, going through things, and honestly, we could have went for another two. I absolutely loved it, and it's changed me so much. And I'm, excuse me, I'm forever grateful. Sure, honestly.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. And it was the student that you were that caused the transformation that you've experienced.
Thank you.
Thank you for being that student. And thank you again, David.